Hi, and welcome to A Voice for Echo. I'm Lauren Patisi, the creator of the blog A Voice for Echo, and this is our mental health series. This is episode 3, and usually I'm here with Lissa Coulter and Chelsea Silky. Chelsea will be here next week. This week, we're focusing solely on Nashville recording artist Lissa Coulter. Want to talk to you about your struggles and everything that you've dealt with, mental illness, mental wellness, depression, and all of that. Hi.
Hi, thank you for having me again.
Of course.
This has been so much fun. I'm excited to be able to bring something new to my platform. This is really great. So I'm excited that we're able to kind of do this.
And we've had a lot of talks outside of these videos. Just, it's amazing how many things people go through that you just have no idea about. Something that we talked about the other day, I remember we were saying like, oh, let's talk about this. And I was like, oh my God, yes, this is imperative. Lack of self-love and
For
where
sure.
a lot of these problems come from. So I'd love to hear you speak on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Something that I've personally been working on over the past year and a half, I think since I got down to Nashville, and understanding from what my background was before I got to Nashville to now, was understanding where I was with myself and how I was able to make myself happy, and where happiness came from, and the concept of happiness as a whole. And it probably took me 8 months after I got down to Nashville, which it's quick for, I feel, for someone my age to kind of understand and grasp that concept. For me, I had to understand that happiness came from within myself and within the decisions I was making, and understanding that, just because I moved out of the house and I was excited to get out and not live with my parents, that wasn't going to make me happy. It wasn't that. It was what was inside of me that was most important.
Right. Do you feel like it's an ongoing journey, or because that's how I feel like it is for me.
Yeah.
Like some days I'll have a day where I'm like, oh no, if this happens, I'll be totally happy. And then I'm like, no, no, no. Like I listen to a lot of podcasts and I read a lot of books, and everything I come across, it's like self-love is the answer to everything.
For
And
sure.
it's crazy because it's true. And it's really difficult. A lot of people don't see that. And they just think like, oh no, if so-and-so loves me, or if I land this job, or if I buy this house, or have this baby, or get married. And it's like, oh my gosh, no, because I know I've done a lot of these things and I'm still the exact same person. And the only way I ever feel content is when I'm feeling love for myself, which is hard. It's a really hard thing to do, but it's so important.
You have to constantly remind yourself, especially in the beginning, like, you have to say, okay, are the decisions I'm making decisions that I'm proud of? Do I feel good about how I go about my daily life? Do I feel good about the way that I am approaching other people and the way that I think about other people? Do I have a healthy mindset about it? And it's a lot of training your mind. It is
Oh
like
yeah.
practice and training. And it's so funny because I like look at it and I'm like, I sometimes overanalyze it. And I'm like, wait, how did I get to this place? And like, I have to go back and think and be like, okay, it didn't take me. And I'll be straight up, like, there are definitely some people whose Facebooks or Instagram I would go look at and like just kind of either compare myself or be like, oh, like I'm better, whatever. Because that's what we want to think. Like that's 100%. Everyone is going to have those feelings every now and then. But being able to practice and say, okay, starting off by saying, let's not go look at that person's profile. Let's start there. And then saying, okay, why, or even starting off with saying, why do I feel that way about this person? Do I like their looks and I'm just jealous? Do I like something that they're doing again and just jealous? And do I envy something that they have? Is there something that I might envy or might have strong, emotions on? And just like really picking it apart and saying, okay, why do I actually feel this way? And is there a need to feel this way? Because we should be happy with other people's success. That should make us happy.
Right. I think that for some people, it's just not that way. Some people view other people's success as their own failure. I
Absolutely.
have done that before and I
All
don't
the
know
time.
why.
All the
And
time.
most of the time, I would say like 90% of the time, somebody does something, they succeed at something, they do something, even if it's something I want for myself, I'm still happy for them. If someone in my industry gets a promotion, I'm still happy for them. I'm like, that's freaking awesome. That's
Yeah.
great. I
Yes.
am genuinely happy.
Absolutely.
Every once in a great while, though, I'm like, that person got something, that means I get less. And I'm like, that makes no
I
sense.
know, and it's that like little thing in the back of your mind that like brings you back to like and in my guess, it probably brings you back to a time where you weren't feeling good about yourself. So like for example, when I
Yes.
sometimes I'll bring up a very personal situation for me. Sometimes when I see my friends hanging out with other friends, I get very jealous. Like I understand that I'm not their only friend, but throughout middle school and high school, I didn't have friends, and I would be jealous of the people that did have a ton of friends. And like
Hmm.
that so when sometimes, like when I'm having a bad day, or if my mind is off in la la land and I'm, forgetting who I am for a second, that comes up and that happens and that emotion comes back, and you're like, oh my gosh, like why aren't I happy right now? And then you kind of have to redirect and say, wait, they're still my friend, they're not going anywhere, we didn't have a falling out, they're hanging out with someone else. And like you
And that's okay.
it's okay. You have to like remind yourself
Yes.
it's totally fine. Like, and it's going to be okay.
Yes.
You didn't lose the friend. Like, they're still there for you whenever you need them.
Right, exactly. It
And
takes a lot of self-awareness and mindfulness for everything that you're speaking on. And I didn't have all of this knowledge when I was your age. I'm not telling anybody how old I am, but I am older than Lissa. And and it took me a long time to get to that place. I think a lot of stuff stems from childhood. I always say that. And I didn't have confidence or self-esteem instilled in me as a child. I came from an abusive childhood, a lot of emotional abuse, and that was really difficult. It was all stuff I had to learn on my own. And I guess to some extent we do all have to learn that stuff on our own, but it's nice when it's planted from childhood, but for me it wasn't. So hey, whatever, that's the cards I was dealt. So I just kind of go with it. But it takes a lot of self-awareness and just continuously learning, like this is a lifelong journey. We're never going to be done. Like, oh, one day I love myself and now it's forever. Like, just like with anything, with like health and diet, physical health and mental health, you always have to work on them.
it's always a practice, always.
Hmm.
It's never ending practice. And it's so funny because I had someone come up to me once and was like, how do you support these people all the time? And how are you like always so happy and blah, blah. And I'm like, well, first of all, I'm not always, number one.
Right.
But number two, like it's just practice. It's like anything else. And I think the big thing is that, again, like going back to what we had originally said, it's, oh, I think when I get married, I'm going to be happy. When I fall in love, when I get a house, when I move out, when I do this. And the matter of the fact is it's practicing. It's like every day you could be happy with yourself. You could still be internally happy, but you could still be having a bad day. And you have to understand that that's not being unhappy as a person as a whole. That's having a
Right.
bad day. I think there's also a big difference between the two as well. And I think, again, like kind of bringing social media into this, understanding that a lot of what we're seeing on social media isn't people internally happy.
That's exactly right. Because I think we've spoke on this before, we're all just putting our best selves out there. If I'm having a terrible day and I'm not getting out of bed, I'm not posting that on social media.
Exactly.
I'm posting the flowers that are blooming outside. Oh, wow, look, Lauren has a perfect garden or something. That's what people are seeing or thinking or feeling when that's completely not even true.
And
So,
I think it's also important when, when you do, I mean, for me, like I said, going back to like me looking at other girls' social media is like going back to, okay, they posted that picture, but are they truly, and I hate to, I'm not trying to turn it negatively, but like, are they internally happy with themselves, or are they posting something for others to see? And I think that's as sad as it sounds, like it is a very important concept to understand, because you could be, again, so envious, so jealous, so whatever, but like you don't know what they're actually going through. In all reality, like that could be their one piece of happiness to their day.
right,
You know?
exactly. Exactly. We never know. That's the thing. We never know what other people are going through. So I just try to be mindful of that, just going through life, like why people react or act a certain way, or like when someone is weird to you, or we tend to take it personal. And I really try to be very mindful of that, and just tell myself it's not me, it's them.
What we talked about. Yeah,
And
absolutely.
it's whatever they've been through in their lives, or whatever thing that has caused them to be this way. It's nothing I did. How could it be? I'm
Exactly.
just here, right here and now. I
Exactly.
have done nothing. If you've done nothing, then it's not you.
Exactly.
So
I think
it's
I
what
think
that other person has gone through.
For sure. And I think another like really big part to like internal happiness is going back to your past and saying like and facing it and like really like
Yes.
looking it in the eye and saying, hey, this is what happened and this is why it happened. And we're going to acknowledge it, and we're going to see kind of what happened there and why I felt that way, and like working through it. And I think that's another
Yes.
thing that I like personally like internalize when I talk to my friends about, the struggles they're going through, is I'm wondering what brought this up in their head in the first place. Like, where did this start? Because something that I'm like super hooked on right now with psychology is like the fact that like when we are born, your brain is like nothing. Fear is instilled into you. Like all these nasty comments are instilled into your brain. Like everything like you get throughout life, that doesn't come when you're born. When you're born, there's
Right.
something there. Like,
You learn it or are shown it
yeah,
or taught
yeah.
it.
And that's
Exactly.
like
Yeah.
so fascinating to me, the fact like how strong people's opinions can be. And like even just media. Where did my fear of spiders come from? Where did my fear of snakes come from? Like some, you know what I mean? Like most of these creatures are harmless, obviously like not the poisonous one, but like most of these creatures are like harmless. Where do we get this fear? And it's the same thing with like your inner self. Where, you know, for me, I know personally because I've gone back to it. I remember there was this one instance in first grade where this girl was only my friend because I would bring her cool things back from vacation, and she straight up told me that once. And that's where
Wow.
that's where one of my trust issues came in, like first grade, like first
Wow.
grade. And I remember that because it was like, but the scary part is we don't always remember that stuff.
That's the thing. Yeah. Some things are, we either don't remember consciously or maybe they're just in our subconscious and we don't realize it. It doesn't feel good to go back and relive these things that are painful. It's hard and it sucks and we don't want to do it. So I think a lot of people just push it down and they don't, and they never deal with their issues. Or maybe they don't even know the issue exists. I have come across issues from digging deep, and like a light bulb would go off. And this is like recent, within the past 6 months or so. And I would be like, oh my goodness, this is connected to this. And this is why I do this. But you actually have to like dig deep and like do something about it. And a lot of people don't. And that's, I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just saying it's painful and it's hard. So I
It
can
is.
understand completely why no
It
one would
is, no,
want
for sure.
to.
There's a four. So when after my parents got divorced, some crazy stuff happened with my dad and his new girlfriend and all that. And I've talked to you about that personally. But there was
Yeah.
this 4-year period that, for the most part, I do not remember at all. Like
Wow.
I barely remember living in the house or the apartment that I was in during that time. Like things will come up and I'll be like, oh yeah, why don't I remember? There, like your brain will subconsciously just start blocking stuff out, and unfortunately, like it becomes our job to go back and say, okay, what hurt me? Start getting the pieces back together and start building up. And the big thing too that I think is almost like assumed of people is that it comes quick. It doesn't. Like
It
it
doesn't.
takes years. It can take years. Like it could take
Yeah.
your whole life. And our brains all develop in different ways and at different rates. And
Right.
like,
Exactly.
and I think that's like another big thing when addressing mental illness is understanding that no one's brain is the same.
Right.
You're gonna mature in a different way. Your brain's gonna grow in a different way. You're gonna have different understandings in a different way. And I think for me, especially lately, that's a big thing when I try to help my friends with their problems. I had this conversation with someone the other day, understanding that because I may have different skills that another person has, I can't phrase things in a way that I understand that they wouldn't understand. Like I have to be careful with the way that I phrase things especially when it comes to talking to people about their mental health and how to accommodate yourself and self-happiness.
Yeah, everybody is on a different level
Mm-hmm.
in that way. And I think some people they are in denial. They don't want to do the work. And I get it. It's hard and it doesn't feel good, but there's better stuff on the other side. You can become a better person for yourself and for your loved ones and friends. Just the longer you stay in denial and don't work through your issues, the harder your life is going to be.
For sure.
And I don't know about you, but things that I have not worked out that I just push down and push down come back. They just keep coming back.
They hit you
And they come
right
back
in the face.
worse every single time.
Every
There'll
single
be like
time.
something, it's like, oh, this is kind of a small issue. Oh, whatever. We'll just like, yeah, okay, just get rid of that person. Okay. And then boom, that person comes back in a form of a different person, 10 times stronger. And you're like, oh my God, I actually have to deal with this issue
Yeah.
because now it's the same issue that I didn't deal with before.
Exactly.
And it's times 100.
Exactly.
So now I have to. And that's just life trying to teach you a lesson, I think.
For sure. Oh, I completely agree. Definitely. And
Yeah.
I think, and I remember in episode 1, the first episode that we had talking about like the coronavirus and like having to sit with our emotions, the impact of that, it goes right back to that. And here's the other thing that I always like to say is like, pain is temporary, right?
Right.
It is so temporary. And I think of it like shots at the doctors, and it's hard to apply it, and I have the hardest time applying it. But like all in all, when you get a shot at the doctors, it's going to hurt for about 3 seconds and then it's going to be over with and done. Granted, it is a longer hurt, But once you are able to work through it, you have to see that it's going to end. Like the pain is it's a breakup, you know, we always get over it.
Right.
Always, always.
Right. That's
So,
a tough thing to remember too, because when you're in it, it feels horrible and it feels like it's never going to
it feels
stop.
like
And
it's
I've
the end
had,
of the world.
it really does. Yeah. I've had situations where I felt like that. And I literally feel like I'm going to feel like this forever. And I think that that connects a lot with depression. I've been in a place of such a severe depression that I thought it was never going to end. And I think that's why people struggle so badly with depression, because it does feel like, it feels like there's no end in sight. And you're like, oh my God, do I want to feel like this for the rest of my life? Hell no.
Absolutely.
But you have to understand everything is temporary, everything. And maybe temporary is a week, or maybe temporary is 7 minutes or a month, but it's temporary. And I have to remind myself that, like, sometimes I'll have like intrusive thoughts and I'm like, okay, get out of my head. And you know, that's not real. That's not, and I actually have to like talk to myself, which kind of sounds confusing, but like you have to just take yourself out of yourself and be like, okay, that is, no, we don't need that thought. Let's take that out of here. We don't need this. We don't need that. And just talk to yourself and talk yourself out of a spiral or a situation.
For sure.
I feel like that sounds very confusing, but it's so important to recognize and sit with it and understand what it is. Like, hey, just because you're feeling this way right this second doesn't mean it's forever.
Exactly. And I think when I think of that, it's learning how to separate emotions from rational thoughts.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And like, that's what I always compare it to. Like, whenever I am in an argument with someone, no matter what the situation, it's like, okay, take out the emotion. What is rational in the situation? Like,
yes.
I understand that I am angry and I am upset, but like, what is the reality of the situation here? And I think the big thing is like separating the two. And again, it takes practice. You're not.
Oh, it's hard. It's so
minutes.
hard.
It's meditating and understanding, and like, I don't know, it's just really crazy. I always go back to just the thought. It's like, it's so insane the way that the brain works, and like, and looking back at situations and looking at how I handled the situation and how I could have handled it better, and understanding like why my emotion was that way and why I couldn't think rationally. Like, it's just so crazy. But it all comes down to like understanding that your emotion is one thing and rationality is another, but also understanding that like it's okay to feel at the same time. Like, it's okay to it's okay to be angry at the situation, but just make sure that like, you know, when you are going about it, you're not being angry towards the person, because it's only going to make it worse.
Right. So I told you I had sought help for my depression and I went to a program. And while I was there, I learned a lot about cognitive behavioral therapy and also dialectical behavioral therapy, which I had never heard of, the second one. But with that, they talk a lot about rational mind and wise mind. And sometimes when you're being irrational, you have to ask yourself, like, the first step is acknowledging it and just like being aware. So like, if I'm angry, okay, obviously I'm not acting in wise mind because I'm acting irrationally. So I think there's a third one too. There's like rational, wise mind, something, whatever. I would have to go back in my notes and look, but you get the point.
Yeah.
And I guess you just have to, as long as you're aware and you can kind of stop before you act on your thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like some people just, they don't think, and it's such a knee-jerk reaction,
instead of like sitting back and saying,
exactly.
okay,
If you could take like a second and just stop and say, hey, this isn't rational. I may regret this later. Because here's the thing, you're going to react and you're going to have regret.
Yeah.
Like, what happens when you have an argument? Okay, you got to apologize later because you said something you didn't mean to, because you were being irrational, because you were angry or you were upset or you were sad or mad.
I have to do that.
Yeah, exactly. And we all do. And now I'm to a point where, I mean, of course it's not perfect. It's a work in progress forever, but I can sometimes stop myself and just stop it, Lauren. You know, you're not, this isn't rational. Just stop and think, take a deep breath, distract yourself. These are all like tactics to help you get through the moment.
Exactly.
Just like distracting, just taking a deep breath or whatever, or even doing something I learned called opposite action. Just do the exact opposite of what you're thinking of doing. And it seems like crazy, but it helps. And then when you come back to it, you're in a much better place. And it's so hard because a lot of times when you're upset or something is happening, it's just such a knee-jerk reaction that you can't even stop to think. But if you can, I promise that will help the situation times a million.
And again,
less apologies in the future.
Yeah, for sure. And again, like, it's I think the important thing just to keep like nailing down is it's a practice. So if you can't do it the first time, don't beat yourself up for it. You know, like
I am so guilty of that. I would
I
not do it.
always
I'd be
do
like,
that.
oh my God,
I was like, I
why
know
did I get this right?
I know, like I knew what my intention was, but I couldn't do it yet. Like, and
Right.
I think that's okay. Like I think, and again, it goes back to as long as you know that you really tried, just take the step forward from there.
Right.
It might
Right.
take
At least you
time.
tried and you acknowledged the fact that you could have done better. Then the next time is going to be better, and the time after that will be better, and you're on your
Exactly.
way.
And like also like just asking for help, asking an adult or asking a therapist or ask for help. And I think that's another thing people are like so hesitant on is like asking for help. I'll be straight up. I probably have 7 or 8 years of therapy under my 22 years of living for sure. Like it's okay to ask for help, and whether it be like from a therapist or a trusted adult or a parent, or it's okay to ask for help and ask for techniques on that. You know, it's not something
Yeah.
and I think again, we've talked about this feeling crazy. We're all crazy. Like we're all
Yeah.
all got our quirky little things that all make us. And I brought this up to you yesterday. Like it's kind of funny because we look at it and we're like, people are buying so much toilet paper. You're
Yes.
comparing like we're like there are so many different types of crazy out there.
Right.
We all have our own crazy. So like it's
Right.
about embracing that and being okay with that and understanding mental illness is something that unfortunately like a lot of people have to deal with, and but it's okay to
Right.
have it. Like it's totally, you're not any crazier than the person next to you.
Right. That's exactly true. We're all just having a human experience on a different level in different ways. And nobody's human experience will ever be the same. Everybody's is different. And we all have mental health, just like we all have physical health to work with. We all have mental health. And not everybody experiences mental illness, but it's not a bad thing if you do. It's completely normal. And I think that's so important to get that out there, to let people know you're not alone. You're not the only one doing this. And it's not, it's definitely more normalized than it was in the past for sure, but it still has a road to go on. And, you know, I think I spoke of this in the first episode where when I did seek help for my depression, it was so eye-opening to me because I really thought, I'm like, I'm going to join the land of crazy people. And even though it's crazy that I thought that, because I guess maybe I thought I was a crazy person. I don't know. And then when I got to the place, I'm like, everyone here is just like me.
Just like me. They're the person you're sitting next to. They're someone you've seen on social media. They're your neighbor. It's anyone. And like
I think that something that hurts it is how it's portrayed in movies and TV. You know, you see psych wards or you see something like that, and you see all these like people that are deemed as crazy in straitjackets or whatever. I mean, that's what I was thinking, and maybe that sounds stupid, but I'm like, oh God, like that's what I'm going to see. And I walk in and I'm like, here's a classroom of normal people just like me, just trying to learn life skills and coping with their depression and anxiety. Wow, look at that, how normal. Couldn't be any more normal.
Exactly. Something that I personally struggled with was I had some really intense like anger problems when I was in high school, like really, really bad. I would just freak on someone in seconds. I mean, say one wrong word, whether it be wrong or right, and just I would go off. And obviously that is not a normal, like a rational reaction to have to someone, but it was something that like I didn't understand that other people actually went through, and that there were people that help you with that. And it's really like eye-opening to know, oh, going to a therapist for this is okay. You know, you've got some stuff going on right now and you're going to work through it, and you're going to, but it's the big thing too, being public figures, both of us, is informing people that people like us who are in the entertainment industry and in industries where their lives are so public, we all have it. Like, and Demi Lovato is like a perfect example of that. Like she definitely has been able to use her platform for good in that sense, and showing people that it's okay to be different and it's okay to feel down on yourself, but you just got to get right back up and you got to work with it.
Exactly. And I've had people talk to me about that. They're like, oh my gosh, I would have never thought, you know, I hear you on the radio and you sound so happy and upbeat. And I'm like, yeah, and that is a part of who I am, but this is another part of who I am. And I wanted to put that out there to show other people that it's okay. There's nothing wrong with you. And what you're going through, I'm going through too. We're just people going through life, just doing the best we can. And that's all you can do.
Exactly. And I think that's really big, especially like, you know, when I go to a performance, a lot of emotions are hidden when the second I get to that venue.
Oh God, yeah.
I remember there was this one time where I had to do a private party, and it was a birthday party. So of course everyone's so happy. And I found 3 hours earlier that my grandma had passed away.
Oh my gosh.
It's like, you have to turn it off and turn it on. I think it's also important to understand that like there is a place to turn it off and there is a place to turn it off. And there are times where it's okay to turn it off and on. I think another big misconception is understanding just like when your emotions are appropriate, which absolutely there are definitely times, but I think it's also like, you know, if you're not on the clock and you're feeling something, you need to feel it, you know, you need to let it go.
Exactly. I think it's really important. I think a lot of people push their emotions down. They're like, nope, I don't have time for this. I don't have time for this. And like, it's always going to be there until you address it.
You have to take the
and
time.
that's exactly. You definitely have to take the time. And I know it hurts and it sucks. It's painful, but you just have to work through it. You just have to, and you'll be better on the other side for it. And it's funny. Well, it's not funny, but it's weird, I guess, is what I should say. I had a very similar experience. I was about to go on the air a few years ago, maybe like 2016. And 2 minutes before I went on the air, I got a call that my grandfather died in the studio crying. And I'm like, what am I going to do? Oh my God, what am I going to do? I have to go on the air in like 2 minutes. And I just got it together and you just did it. I just did it because I had to. And I just went on and I put a smile on my face and no one could tell any different. And then I turned off my microphone and back to reality. And then, you know, and it's, you have to turn it on and turn it off and in that type of situation. Exactly. But there are lots of life situations where it's okay. It's okay to have emotions. It's okay to feel your feelings. And I think a lot of people are afraid of that.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I completely agree. I 100% agree.
Yeah. I think that's a really important thing to make people know. Almost like hammer that home. Like it is okay to feel a feeling.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us push our feelings down without even realizing. We just are like, nope, don't want to deal with it. You know, we procrastinate feeling. Just like we procrastinate doing dishes or whatever.
We're again, like it goes back to like, we're afraid of that hurt. Like,
yeah, of course.
We're afraid of the pain. And it's like, pain is temporary.
Right.
And yeah, that pain could be 5 years. It for sure could be, but imagine how like good it's going to feel once you get that off your chest.
I think a lot of it too is that people don't know how to process it. That's a problem I had. And it's different for everybody. Yeah. I'll say that. There's a bunch of different things. Meditation helps a lot. And I know people think that's like, oh, woo-woo meditation. That's weird, but it's really not. It's really helpful.
Meditation is super helpful.
Yeah, I love it. Insight Timer is the app that I use. I love that app. It's amazing. It's free. That's helped me through a lot. There's just so many different things. And I think if you can identify what your struggle is, and there's books out there, there's therapy, there's sometimes talk therapy is helpful, sometimes it's not. It depends on the person and the situation. And
for sure.
There's so many different podcasts that I listen to, personal development, personal growth, self-care.
Even kind of like more out there, like a little bit of an out there option is like hypnosis. My mom actually trained to do like hypnotherapy, like type things. She can't call herself therapist, she doesn't have a doctorate, but she was able to she got trained from a hypnotist and in a big class that was a lot of freaking money. And she can do like hypnotherapy techniques and all of that. Like she was able to run a business for 3 years and she loved it. What ended up happening was that it was too emotional on her. So she had to like back off from it.
Oh man.
That's how my sister got through her depression.
Wow.
Depression, anxiety is hypnosis. And it is so crazy, the power of that. So even just they have on your phone, you can download hypnosis tracks that helps you with those from Apple Music.
Yeah, I've used hypnosis myself, and I have a couple online as well, different things that I'll listen to. EMDR is another one that I find really helpful, and a lot of people are like, oh my God, that's weird, it doesn't do anything, it's pointless, and I've been going to EMDR on and off for, oh gosh, probably 7 or 8 years. It's very helpful, especially with like a post-traumatic stress disorder type thing. And another one that's going to sound super out there, but EFT tapping. I don't know if you've heard of that, but it's awesome and it's really helpful.
My mom like taught, that's one of the techniques that she would teach.
Really?
Yeah. Tapping was huge. It's all about tapping.
Yes. Tapping is really important. And if you're thinking like, okay, this episode's getting weird.
It is getting a little weird, but this is like, this is it. We swear, like just do some research on it.
For real. No, actually these things are all like techniques that we've just learning about each other right now that we've used and have helped us. But yeah, if it's getting a little weird, that's okay because we got to go anyway.
That's okay. And I think the big thing is just like being patient. Like not all techniques work for everyone. So
that's exactly right. Yes.
Find your technique. Find it.
Yes. And something I will tell you from experience, do not do 17 different techniques at once, because that was me. I was like, I just want to feel better. I'm going to do all the things. And then It was like, oh my gosh, I'm all over the place. Okay, back to square one.
Yeah.
And, you know, and it's going to take time, and that's okay. Everything you're doing, it's going to be okay.
For sure.
Just keep reminding yourself that. So this was great. We have to wrap up. Tell everybody where they can find you, Lissa.
They can find me all over social media, lissacoulter.com, or on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at Lissa Coulter.
Perfect. And this is, of course, A Voice for Echo, and that's on Instagram and Facebook at A Voice for Echo. This is episode 3. Next week, we'll have Chelsea Sulky back. We'll do our solo episode with Chelsea. And I'm Lauren Patisi. You can find me all over social. It's Radio Lauren on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter if you must, but I don't really use that. So, or whatever. And oh, hey, I just made a LinkedIn. How about that?
Hey, look at that.
Well, I had it for a long time, and then I was like, this isn't helpful. And then everyone swears that it's helpful. So I'm like, okay, fine.
We'll try it again.
So I'm there. Yeah, so that's it, at Radio Lauren. So thank you very much for being here. Hopefully this was helpful. This was a great chat, and we'll talk to you next time.
Sounds
Bye.
good. Bye.